This is Mac OS Ken.
A case for Apple services growth. Tim Cook visits the nation's capital, and your use cases for Apple Vision Pro revealed. It is Friday, the 23rd of June, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Use code MacOSKen50 at factormeals.com/MacOSKen50 for 50% off your first box. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Barclays analyst Tim Long has been eyeing Apple's various services. Seeking Alpha eyes some of his findings, which mostly skew to the positive. Running through a few, Long and company see advertising accounting for 29% of Apple's total services revenue this fiscal year. That includes any advertising products Apple runs, as well as money paid to Apple by Google to be iPhone's default search engine. While the Google deal may be regulated out of existence, Long sees Apple's own ad offerings as having a lot of runway across its other businesses. He sees ads for Apple growing 35% over the next few years. Next up is Apple Pay. That's seen as a small part of Apple's services segment today, accounting for 3% by Long's reckoning. Sounds small, and yet the analyst says Apple dominates in mobile payments. That dominance will lead to a familiar-sounding 35% growth over the next few years. iCloud is said to account for 13% of Apple's services revenue. Long and friends say they've seen solid penetration of the iPhone installed base, so this business clearly benefits from the ecosystem. Apple Care is believed to make up 12% of Apple's services revenue. Though he doesn't put a growth rate on paper, Long says his firm has seen a decent increase in Apple Care recently. Apple Music is interesting. While it accounts for 11% of Apple's services revenue, fights to stay competitive with the likes of Spotify, YouTube Music, and Amazon Music seem to keep it from moving much. The App Store is huge, but hindered. Accounting for 31% of Apple's services, hurdles ahead include a weak macroeconomy, foreign exchange pressures, continued pressure from China on its gaming industry, and the potential loss of commission-related revenue from in-app purchases and subscriptions if Apple is forced to open the App Store to third-party payment processors or open the iPhone to other app stores. Now, the one service with which the analyst and his crew are decidedly unimpressed, at least in terms of dollars and cents, is Apple TV Plus. Thought to account for only 2.5% of Apple's services, even if it grows 30% in the next few years, as Long and his friends think it will, it'll still probably lose about $6 billion, leading the analyst to struggle with how this business fits in. Still, mostly positive, as I say. The folks from Barclays see Apple services generating revenue of $83 billion in fiscal year 2023 and $93 billion in fiscal 24. Surprisingly, Long has a hold rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $149, which is way short of where Apple is right now. Apple stock continues to climb to $3 trillion with new trading highs, says a piece from 9 to 5 Mac. Highs that are way higher than the $149 called for by Barclays. According to the report, the company closed at $187 per share on Thursday after opening at $183.74 and reaching $187.04 during trading. That puts Apple at a $2.941 trillion valuation based on market cap. The Despite significant setbacks at the end of last year, 9 to 5 Mac says it continues to look likely that Apple will close with a $3 trillion valuation in the near future. They cite the upcoming iPhone refresh and anticipation for Apple's Vision Pro mixed reality headset as a couple of factors that could power the 3T drive. Also, there's talk of growth for services. Travelin' Tim's way out east. Apple Insider says Apple CEO Tim Cook is spending time in Washington, D.C., chatting up Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Well, it's not just Cook. According to the piece, Apple CEO was attending a White House dinner for Modi Thursday night, along with the CEOs of Cisco, FedEx, GE, Google, Marriott, Micron, and Microsoft. The dinner seems to have been sandwiched between meetings with the heads of various companies all week for Modi. Apple Insider says deals made this week include a new Micron chip plant in India and a series of production deals with GE. Cook is expected to meet with Prime Minister Modi today. From We Crashed to Tetris, all the way back to The Banker, Apple TV Plus has mined real-world business stories for its entertainment offerings, and it is doing it again. Cult of Mac says the Cupertino streamer has released a trailer for the Elizabeth Banks, Zach Galifianakis movie, The Beanie Bubble, promising to let viewers witness the crazy behind the craze. The film tells the story of the people behind the 1990s fad that was Beanie Babies. Teasing the title, Apple's description says, "Why did the world suddenly treat stuffed animals like gold?" Ty Warner, played by Galifianakis, was a frustrated toy salesman until his collaboration with 3 women grew his masterstroke of an idea into the biggest toy craze in history. The Beanie Bubble is an inventive story about what and who we value, and the unsung heroes whose names didn't appear on the heart-shaped tag. Set for a theatrical release and Apple TV Plus, the Beanie Bubble premieres through both channels on Friday, the 28th of July. Between now and then, you can catch the trailer on YouTube. We'll do some Apple Vision Pro talk in a moment, including emails from you. But first, a word from Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit and sponsor of today's show. If you're working a special diet, Factor's got you covered. From keto to calorie smart to vegan plus veggie to protein plus, Factor offers delicious options on the menu every week. Prepared by chefs and approved by dietitians, each meal has all of the ingredients you need to feel satisfied all day long while meeting your goals. Now, if you're just looking for food that tastes good, Factor's got you covered there too. Everything I've had from Factor has been delicious. The creamy Parmesan chicken from the keto menu and the barbecue pork sloppy joe from the calorie counter menu were both big hits around here. And they couldn't be easier. Just 10 minutes in the oven or 2 minutes in the microwave. No prep, no mess, just great meals. Head to factormeals.com/MacOSKen50 and use code MacOSKen50 to get 50% off your first box. That's code MacOSKen50 at factormeals.com/MacOSKen50 to get 50% off your first box. Taste what has made Factor America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Get 50% off your first box with code MacOSKen50 at factormeals.com/MacOSKen50. Does Apple still do non-disclosure agreements for its developer program? If so, they are not working. a day after the Cupertino company released its first developer beta of visionOS 1.0 and the visionOS SDK, the web was full of not-so-secret secrets about the way the Apple Vision Pro mixed reality headset is expected to work. One of my first questions had to do with multiple users. iDownload blog offers something like an answer. It seems that Apple's headset will be tied to one person or one Apple ID specifically, but there will apparently be a couple of ways other people can use the device without having access to the primary user's personal info. From the iDownload blog piece and the Mac Rumors video I saw on YouTube, it seems there will be two guest user modes. The Mac Rumors video described a process where the primary user could basically slip the device in the guest mode. At that point, they'd have 5 minutes to turn the device over to the guest, who would have limited access to the headset's functions, again leaving the owner's info safe from prying eyes. The other guest mode sounds more full-featured. According to iDownload blog, the primary user can assign a password to the guest account to permit others to access certain settings and apps without authorization with Optic ID. It sounds like a guest account can be configured to allow greater access granted by the primary owner. Anyway, that's what it sounds like 1 day after the first developer beta. Now, I'm not sure that this one will be the killer app, but it does sound pretty killer. A piece from Mac Rumors says Apple Vision Pro will have a visual search function, sounding a lot like visual lookup for iPhone and iPad. The piece says with visual search, users can use the Vision Pro headset to get information about an item, detect and interact with text in the world around them, copy and paste printed text from the real world into apps, translate text between 17 different languages, and more. That will be neat once the things are small enough to take outside, or prevalent enough that you wouldn't feel like an idiot wearing one outside. If it could give me diet information just by looking at the nutrition label or a product barcode, that would be pretty cool. There were other features found, of course. We'll likely hit those in the days, weeks, and months ahead. But I want to get to your ideas. This started earlier this week when I read a message from Bernard. Though he's had no interest in AR or VR before, Apple's Vision Pro intro had him thinking that the headset would pay for itself on every job tackled by his renovation business. That made me wonder whether you had ideas for what Vision Pro might do, and some of you let me know. Randy wrote in saying, I worked in the auto body industry for 46 years, where we used visual technology as it developed as much as possible in the estimating and insurance negotiating process. He says that use was slammed into high gear when the pandemic hit, since adjusters didn't want to go places where people were. That left folks like Randy sending 2D pics of damage that was very much 3D. While people are back to going where other people are these days, insurance companies saved a lot of money by not having people go places, so they're still relying on body shops to do the documentation. Enter Apple Vision Pro, says Randy. If we could take a 3D movie of exactly what we're trying to show the adjuster, possibly while having a video chat right in the space, right next to the vehicle, it would provide what has been impossible to communicate remotely for 3 to 4 years or longer. Not unlike Bernard, Randy says the $3,500 for Apple Vision Pro would pay for itself pretty quickly. Oh, maybe not on every job, but quickly nonetheless. Tracy is a photographer who says if the Vision Pro can be color calibrated, it could be a game changer for photographers and videographers. I don't edit on laptops because the brightness and color can change based on the room lighting, color of the environment, angle of the screen, etc. Being able to pack a virtual studio monitor setup in my camera bag would be huge, potentially better than my current studio. Rob works for a company that researches and develops a number of AR/VR applications in the intelligent training, medical, autonomy, and operations planning domain. They've had particular success with their Quinn solar app for immersive training for space domain awareness. That's understanding where all the Earth's satellites are, what services they're capable of, and what they're doing at a given time. They have seen success with the Magic Leap 2, and now he would like to see solar on Apple Vision Pro. Moving away from the work thing, Joel wants to get stoned without having to get stoned. He wonders whether Vision Pro might allow simulations of drugs like LSD. I'm not naive enough to expect tingling fingers and the feeling of flight, he says. Just the visual stuff would be a good start. He's also looking forward to a library of VR events from Apple. Concerts, tours, safaris, comedy gigs, stuff like that. Thinking along a similar line, Tony says he went to a Dead and Company concert a couple of weeks ago, many years after attending Grateful Dead concerts in the early 70s. He says he had a great time, which is totally not surprising. I saw Planet Drum and Rat Dog, 25 years ago, I think. Amazing times. He says being at that show was where it hit him. If Apple can manage to capture what he experienced back in the 70s and earlier this month, they would really have something. It would almost be a religious experience. Imagine Apple using all their tech tools and entertainment divisions to develop the experience. He thinks Tim Cook would have a shot at Steve Jobs' dream of putting a dent in the universe. Now, I wasn't looking for a winner, but I think Patrick may be our winner. I don't see well, he says, and use the magnifier app on the iPhone all the time, along with wearing prescription glasses. If the Vision Pro has the magnifier app on it, I might not have to wear glasses at all because the lenses in it are curved, which unlike traditional glasses, would give me a full field of view and let me utilize my peripheral vision. We have no idea what Vision Pro is going to be. We have no idea what kind of apps are going to be written for it. We have no idea what kind of uses people are going to put it to. And I am so excited to find out. Thanks to everybody who wrote in. It goes without saying, but I will say it anyway. You rock. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Use code macOSKen50 at factormeals.com/macOSKen50 for 50% off your first box. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.